You believe you are the author of your own life. You believe your choices, your mistakes, the people you fall in love with, and the habits you form are uniquely yours. But what if they aren't? What if your entire existence, every spontaneous decision you think you make, is just a pre-written biological script playing out in real time? In 1940, two identical boys were separated at birth. They were raised by completely different families in different towns. They didn't know the other existed, yet they lived the exact same life. This isn't a heartwarming story about a family reunion. This is a chilling psychological anomaly that shatters the illusion of free will. Welcome to the terrifying reality of the Jim twins. It started in Ohio in the hands of a 15-year-old single mother. Unable to care for her newborn identical boys, she surrendered them to the state at barely 4 weeks old. The social services system severed their bond, separating the infants so they could be more easily adopted by families who only wanted one child. They were sent to two different towns, Lima and Pica, separated by about 40 miles. To ensure a clean break, a dark fabrication was told to both sets of adoptive parents. They were told the other twin had died at birth. The boys were destined to grow up entirely alone, completely blind to the fact that their mirror image was breathing, walking, and growing just a few towns away. But the universe immediately began to violently correct this separation in a haunting first coincidence. Without consulting anyone, both independent families looked at their new babies and named them James, Jim Lewis, and Jim Springer. Two parallel lines drawn on the same map, beginning their perfectly synchronized descent into life. As they grew up in their separate homes, the coincidences began to metastasize into something deeply inexplicable. As children, both boys begged their parents for a dog. When they finally got one, completely unaware of the other's existence, both boys named their dog Toy. In school, their academic lives mirrored each other with unsettling precision. Both excelled in math and had a deep passion for woodworking, spending hours in the shop building miniature furniture, and both of them consistently failed their spelling and grammar classes. You might call these childhood habits acceptable coincidences. But the true psychological horror began when they entered adulthood, the phase of life where we supposedly exercise our ultimate free will. Young Jim Lewis fell in love and married a woman named Linda. 40 miles away, in his completely separate reality, Jim Springer also fell in love and married a woman named Linda. When those marriages inevitably fractured and failed, both men went through a divorce. And soon after, both men found love again and married for a second time. Out of millions of women in the world, both of them married women named Betty. But the biological script wasn't finished. Soon after marrying their respective Bettys, both men had a firstborn son. Jim Lewis looked at his boy and named him James Allen. At the exact same time, Jim Springer looked at his newborn and named him James Allen, spelling the middle name with 2 L's instead of 1. They were two separate bodies, but they were acting as one shared consciousness. They both took jobs securing the public. Jim Lewis worked as a security guard at a steel mill, while Jim Springer worked as a deputy sheriff. They both smoked the exact same brand of cigarettes, smoking the exact same amount every day. When they came home from work, they cracked open the exact same brand of beer. And when they drove to work, they both sat behind the wheel of the exact same model and color of a light blue Chevrolet. Even their physical suffering was synchronized Both men suffered from severe, debilitating tension headaches at the exact same times in their lives. When they were stressed, both of them nervously bit their fingernails down to the absolute quick. They were romantic husbands, both leaving little handwritten love notes around the house for their wives. The illusion of their individual realities was perfect, until the invisible thread finally pulled them back together. In 1977, Jim Lewis's adoptive mother remembered a strange comment a court clerk had made decades ago, hinting that the other twin might actually be alive. Driven by a sudden, inexplicable urge, Jim Lewis requested his adoption records from the state. He found the Springer family in Pica. He picked up the phone, dialed the number, and heard a voice on the other end that sounded exactly like his own. On February 9th, 39 years after they were torn apart, the two men finally stood face to face. As they sat down and began to talk, the sheer volume of their identical life choices poured out. The dogs, the wives, the sons, the cars, the headaches. They laughed in sheer disbelief. But the scientific community saw something much more profound and much more disturbing. Their story exploded across the national media, catching the attention of Dr. Thomas Bouchard at the University of Minnesota. He immediately brought the brothers into his laboratory for a massive 50-hour psychological and medical study. He wanted to look at this glitch in the human matrix. What the scientists found fundamentally changed how we view human psychology. It wasn't just their habits that were identical. Their brain waves synchronized on the monitors. Their intensive personality tests yielded the exact same scores. When the psychologists asked them to draw a picture completely separated from one another, they drew the exact same image. Science had to confront the terrifying reality. Nurture meant almost nothing. The different families, the different towns, the different environments they were raised in, none of it mattered. Their biological hard drive was simply executing a predetermined code. The famous psychoanalyst Carl Jung once spoke of synchronicity, the concept that some coincidences are not random at all, but are the results of a deep, unseen order in the universe. An invisible web connecting minds. The Jim twins proved that our minds might be tethered to forces far beyond our understanding. Or worse, completely locked inside the rigid cages of our own DNA. We build our entire identities around our decisions. We comfort ourselves with the warm, safe idea of free will. But the universe is vast, and the human mind is a dark, uncharted labyrinth. So the next time you make a major life choice, the next time you feel that spark of intuition, fall in love, or make a spontaneous turn on a dark road, ask yourself one question: are you really the one making that choice? Or is your biology just reading the next line of a script you never wrote? Let me know in the darkest corners of the comments below. Have you ever experienced a coincidence so mathematically impossible that it made you question your own reality? Tell me your story. I will be watching. Until next time, stay safe in the dark.